I don't know if you've noticed, but your wrists are one of the most important things for grabbing a sword. Hi folks, welcome to the Asgard's History, and today we are going to cover up a problem that I've noticed while practicing with a rapier. Make sure to stick until the end of the video, where I will be sharing a few exercises that I use to overcome some difficulties for new rapierists. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. Most people will agree that there are different ways to grab a rapier. Some prefer one finger over the guard, some prefer 2 fingers over the guard, some prefer no fingers over the guard. I personally use 2. But regardless of how many fingers you put over the guard, whilst in the middle of the thrust, you might notice that there are weaker and stronger ways to grab your blade. So we know that the rapier is more of a thrust-centric sword. It makes more sense that we want to spend more time pointing at our opponent. In the different guards, from 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, we are mostly pointing at the opponent. But there was this one day that I was practicing my thrust from the 4 different guards, and I've noticed that from the 2nd guard I've almost broke my wrist. I wasn't really understanding what was happening, so I contacted my instructors, and as always their advice were really useful. What was happening, as you can see in this video, it kinda made no sense to me until they explained that I was not lining up my thrust with my arm. And I thought, oh, that makes no sense, because I'm literally pointing forward with my sword. It goes straight to my wrist. But then it actually made sense. They told me to push the pommel a little bit outwards while staying on point. And I thought, wow, that's a bit uncomfortable. But suddenly everything changed. And that has to do a little bit with physics. As you can see in this picture here, when I'm grabbing my sword as I was doing before, the force was being directed right underneath my arm. When the force is not completely centered, it will break my structure. That's what was happening. I thought, okay, but now the force is not pointing towards my wrist, it's pointing outwards. Yes, but my momentum is pointing to the direction of my wrist. And well, you just need to make a little bit of math that the force that the blade generates towards my wrist is more or less the same as the force that I generate against the blade. So it will compensate and not break my structure. But then after solving this problem, I came across another one. I don't know if you have the same kind of problem or if it's just me, but for some reason, when I'm trying to transition from my 3rd guard to the 2nd one while displacing my opponent's blade, I actually cannot do it. I really try it, but for some reason I lose all the force that I have in my arm. I don't know why. When I'm going to 4th, it's fine, but when I'm going to 2nd, I don't know why. I have no strength on this arm. So if you know any kind of exercise that might help strengthen my arm to do this motion, I guess, like, let me know in the comments. I will do it. I found a different way to overcome that same situation, but it puts me in a disadvantage. At least the first one. The second one, well, if I'm good at grappling, it's fine, more or less. Supposedly the idea is that you lean backwards while you lift your sword to gain leverage, displace the opponent's blade while keeping your point in line, and then going in for the thrust. But as I cannot do that, either I will lean backwards and displacing my opponent's blade with my point, and then lifting my blade to almost the 1st guard, but still in the 2nd, and then going in for the thrust. But anyway, it takes more time. If it takes more time, it puts me in a disadvantage. Another way that I found to overcome this problem was to go straight away to grappling distance. So I'm in my third, leaning a bit back and lifting my sword as if I was going to displace it. I step forward while lifting my sword, grabbing my opponent's hand and then bashing the pommel against his face. So these are the two solutions that I came up with. I don't know if you have any other suggestion or a type of exercise that could help me to gain strength on this movement, which I'd very much appreciate it. Now on to some exercises that I usually do to strengthen my wrist. So one of them is something that I try to do every single morning, around 20 times each arm of each exercise, first with the rapier, then with my rolling synthetic longsword, without letting the weight of the sword just dropping, just pointing forwards, pointing upwards, forwards, upwards, just like this 20 times. Then I do the same but to the side. I start in this side, I have to manage a little bit of the first to this side, then to this side. Same rule applies, never letting the weight, just pushing the blade forward and using your own strength to hold it in place. Then I do it with my other hand. This is something that I usually do every morning or every night if I didn't do in the morning. I do them as well when I'm warming up for exercising or for regular training, as well as cutting exercises, especially with the rapier. This synthetic here, it has some heft to it. It's not so easy to move it around when it's cutting that we are talking about. So first I'm doing from the inside, few times. Normally I extend a little bit more my arm, but I have to manage a little bit the space here, the space here, the space here. Few times, and try to keep control of the blade. The space here, then to the other side. Then I repeat them with my other hand, which is a little bit more difficult. Another thing that I usually do is transitioning from first to fourth, just like this, and keep on doing it. Have in mind that while you are doing that, you want to always keep your point in line in order to create a little bit of muscle memory. Before we end this video, I want to thank Velha Guarda Marcial. It's the HEMA club where I'm currently practicing in Sintra, in the district of Lisbon. If you live in the surroundings and you would like to learn a bit more about HEMA and practice it, make sure to contact them. The links will be down below in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.